A new ethics complaint has been filed against the attorney from Colorado who worked with former President Trump to try and overturn the results of the election. The state's United Democracy Center, which describes itself as a nonpartisan organization for secure elections, filed the complaint against Jenna Ellis yesterday. The complaint notes that Ellis attempted to discredit the election results. It asked for an investigation, and if the findings are sustained, for substantial discipline. That could be a censure, that could be suspension, or it could be full disbarment, as in Ellis can no longer practice law here.
Jenna Ellis admitted to breaking ethics by spreading false claims about the 2020 election being stolen.
The rule in Colorado states that lawyers cannot engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. And when she was before that judge, she acknowledged that she lied not once, not twice, but 10 separate times in regard to the 2020 election.
So when those cases kept losing, they just started publicly claiming the whole thing was stolen.
She's admitted that she lied. She lied repeatedly, as you said. She lied when she said that Donald Trump won. She lied when she said that Joe Biden stole the election. She lied when she said there was fraud. And she's admitted that there was real harm from those lies.
This is Trump derangement syndrome at its finest.
She was effectively censured by a judge this week in the state of Colorado for misrepresentations of what actually took place in the 2020 election.
She's saying in a sworn statement under legal pressure that she knowingly misrepresented the facts in several of her appearances and public statements, basically admitting the lies.
Let's not call these misrepresentations, let's call them what they are. Lies. Because that's what Jenna Ellis did.
Once she realizes that it could hurt her ability to practice law because she's breaking rules pertaining to lawyers, well, then all of a sudden she'll admit that she's been lying.
Ellis, however, maintained in her first public comments following her censure that she didn't lie and that the media was falsely trying to discredit her by claiming she lied throughout the course of her team's efforts to overturn the election. That is false. I would never lie, she said in a tweet denouncing the headlines. Lying requires intentionally making a false statement. I never did that, nor did I stipulate to or admit that. As has become sadly typical, the opposition-controlled media is intentionally twisting the truth, conflating the full RPC standard with the actual stipulation. Bar complaints have been filed all over the country by people Trump lawyers have never met, had no client relationship with, and who are totally partisan against Trump, she added. This is and always was political lawfare to intimidate lawyers from representing Trump or Republican candidates, especially in election challenges, and try to destroy our livelihood and reputation. Organizations filing complaints have been open about this motivation.
I could care less what the fake, phony, selective outrage from the media mob is. I am not interested, nor do I think any of us should be interested in what they tell us they find offensive. The sanctimonious, high-minded, phony concern all of a sudden about American democracy. We, frankly, don't need lectures about truth, about integrity from what is a depraved group of Democratic donors, the media mob, and Democrats that never accepted the results of 2016, ever. I don't care what they think.
I would argue that maintaining our democracy and democratic process is far more important than one particular figure that you love so much.
I don't care what they think.
The lawyer, Jenna Ellis. You may have seen her, fairly young, blonde, came out of nowhere in the wake of the election and just spouting all kinds of whoppers. She claimed the Trump team had found 500,000 illegal votes had been cast in Arizona.
I mean, in Arizona, for example, we have over 500,000 ballots that were cast illegally. 11,000, just 11,000 are overvotes, meaning more votes were cast than they have registered voters. Just that alone would change the outcome of the election. And so when Democrats are saying that there's no evidence of election fraud, they're absolutely lying and they're willfully blind. No, he is the first one to actually use his platform as an American citizen to be able to call out the fake news media and say, because you are peddlers.
You understand that, like, someday you're going to regret this, right?
3.5 years.
Someday you're going to regret this when your kids and your grandkids look back at this time and you use slurs and smears like fake news to hurt news outlets. No, but it's, Jenna,
you can't even come on.
I think in 10 or 20 years, if we just sit down and talk about this, you're going to recognize how damaging it was. How damaging it was to use terms like fake news, to attack journalists who were trying to do their jobs.
In 15 or 20 years, you're not trying to do your job. You're not a journalist, Brian. You're an activist. That's the problem. You have an agenda, and your agenda is anti-Trump. The American people see through that, and they are very grateful that this president is finally holding the fake news media accountable, because you're activists. You're not reporting fact and truth. You lie. You have the lying left, and then you have President Trump on the right. Promises made, promises kept. The contrast here could not be more stark.
I actually have a small story to add to the pile here. I used to do Fox News. One evening I did it, and a woman I didn't know was on the other side. It was Jenna Ellis. I said something, she said something in return. I don't quite remember. I said something, and then she just delivered this complete whopper. And the lawyer, Jenna Ellis, you may have seen her, fairly young, blonde, came out of nowhere in the wake of the election. Here, I used to do Fox News. One evening I did it, and a woman I didn't know was on the other side. It was Jenna Ellis. Came out of nowhere in the wake of the election. I said something, and then she just delivered this complete whopper. And
Trump was trying to exchange things of value, information, and which are judged, by the way, not by a straight quid pro quo, but by a winks and nods count.
Harry, would you take that case to a jury with that phone call?
I think I'd probably get summary judgment before getting there.
Okay.
But the important
all right, Jenna, let me bring Jenna back in here.
Let me just answer one thing.
Okay, but
the point is not not the phone call. The point is whether this should be investigated more.
I said something, and then she just delivered this complete whopper. And in constitutional law terms, you know, it was like from Mars.
So you're very clearly wrong here that bribery covers this particular action. Let's remember that the United States president does not cede any of his powers that are vested by Article 2 simply because he's running for re-election. And so, of course, a United States president can ask one of our allies for collaboration when he's investigating a potential corruption charge against one of our former vice presidents. And so there's nothing remotely related to bribery. This is not a thing of value. This is not a donation to his campaign.
She just completely lied and you know, trashed what I said, except she was, you know, 100% wrong.
There's nothing remotely related to bribery. This is not a thing of value. This is not a donation to his campaign.
I said something, she said something in return. I don't quite remember. I just delivered this complete whopper, and you know, it was like from Mars. She said something in return. I don't quite remember.
We'll leave it there, and this is gonna be one of those nights where we have to agree to disagree. Harry and Jenna, come back soon.
It's just fanciful.
Thank you, Jenna.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised that she had to admit to all these misrepresentations.
There are better things in life than having your favorite guy in the White House. I guarantee it.
Bullshit. Most of us are lawyers. We have the Constitution at our heart. Well, I think they're getting closer to knowing that the truth's going to come out, that there was activities with the Trump campaign in Russia and releasing those hacks and guiding them to the states and the localities where they came from.
They lied to you and us for 4 years on the most spectacular level. They dragged this country through hell with Russian lies, conspiracy theories, and a hoax they pushed for years. It was all a lie. They all advanced the lie. They all advanced the conspiracy theory. There was never Trump-Russia collusion. 4 investigations, no collusion.
Some of that was Jared Kushner's responsibilities. Some of it was Donald Jr. I think you're going to probably see indictments of both of those people.
Actual indictments from Mueller, specifically against who?
against Donald Jr. and against Jared Kushner.
That's what they sold as truth to the American people for 3 years, peddling those lies. Save us your phony BS lectures. They are meaningless to the rest of us.
MSNBC has a very high standard of what is factual. You have to go through a process before you report things on air to make sure they are factual and you have sources. That is how news should work.
Stop treating Donald Trump as if he's an actual president of the United States. He is not. He's playing one on TV.
MSNBC has a very high standard of what is factual.
They never accepted this president, tried to delegitimize him every second, every hour of every day. You might remember.
We are looking at the possibility that the President of the United States and those around him during an election campaign colluded with a hostile foreign power to undermine the basis of our democracy.
We're about to find out if the new president of our country is going to do what Russia wants.
This is evidence of willingness to commit collusion.
This cloud about collusion with Russia will hang over him no matter where he stands.
Now those same hacks are demanding that we, the American people, 74 million strong, just fall in line and accept their new standards. Amazing how they changed. 4 years that they lied with Russian disinformation that Hillary paid for. They're that out of touch.